Some people swallow the universe like a pill. They travel on through the world like smiling images pushed from behind. The universe lies before you on the floor, in the air, in the mysterious bodies of your dancers, in your mind. From this voyage, no one returns poor or weary. The grand show is eternal. Universe. Some people swallow the universe like a pill. They travel on through the world like smiling images pushed from behind. The universe lies before you on the floor, in the air, in the mysterious bodies of your dancers, in your mind. From this voyage, no one returns poor or weary. The grand show is eternal. The universe.
Hello, 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 and welcome. Let's switch over to coding. And my head is tiny, but that's okay. Yeah. So we're into day 3. I'm actually going to turn my desktop audio all the way down. And why is my mic? Is that better? That should be a little better. All right. So my mic level should be reasonable. You should be able to hear me no trouble. I'm gonna put music on for myself just so I'm not completely in the quiet. And there we go. Okay, so that should be better for everybody. All right, so this is day 3 of development of our web-based game. So for anyone who is just joining us, who has not done the previous, I'm gonna kind of walk through what it is we've discussed. So we are building a game that right now is codenamed The Campaign. And The Campaign is all about, basically the goal is to win a political campaign. The politics don't actually matter though, as crazy as that's going to sound, but the whole game is about basically, getting yourself as many followers or helping your party as much as possible. And each game, each session will last about either 1 month or 3 months. I'm not 100% sure. But what's going to happen is at the end of the season, the software is going to pick a winner. So there's going to be a winning party, and out of that party, there's going to be a winner. That winner gets to choose 2 different rule changes. I'm Sparkly, yay! You can just call me Captain Sparkles. I still haven't fully figured out the green screen settings yet, so I'm just going to be a little sparkly for now. So yes, you get to pick the rules to change them just a little bit for the next game. I'm not 100% sure what those rules are yet. We haven't figured it out. So day 1, we actually created a user class. So we created a user object, and I'll zoom in so we can see that. So we created a user object. The user object stores in the database. We created we created the front end, the very basic of the front end, and we create a create user script. So if I go over, now this is extremely zoomed in. This is how it looks normally. It's normal, nice and tiny, but I'm zooming in to make it really easy for everyone else. So we have not gotten to making this mobile friendly or anything like that, but we're just getting started. So right now there's basic character creation. And we do actually have the database. So, hold on. Let me. This is like, see what my brain looks like when it's confused. Well, Cass, you're gonna learn. That's why we're here. We're here to learn. All right, so if I go to, so we have a database set up. So we set that up as well, and we have a users table. And our users table has 2 users in it. So I'm going to delete those so that we can create completely new. So yes, so that is what we're building. So ultimately, it's a role-playing game. And the way it works is twofold. So step 1 is everyone has a job. And that job defines the sorts of actions they can do in the world, or in this stuff, in the game. So, let's drop that. So, ultimately, a user who has, let me open up the jobs. Okay. So, the jobs right now that we have is politician, TV personality, campaign manager, reporter, lobbyist, and thug. I think we had a better word for thug, but I think we're going to leave that as is. Basically, it's the person who does the dirty jobs. So you pick a party. The party is the kumquats, the cupcakes, the cookies, and the goobers. So yeah. So the political parties don't actually have politics behind them. It's more just kind of picking team red, team blue, team green. It's kind of like, picking a sports team, that it doesn't matter that all the players are from, anywhere and everywhere. It's simply just, your home team or your other team, no big deal. So you pick a party and then you pick a class. So if you're, for example, a thug, if you're a thug, you're going to go out and you're going to look to, set up other politicians. You're going to look to beat up people who are talking bad about you, about your party. You're going to do stuff like that. So if you're a lobbyist, you're going to be spending lots of money to try and persuade people that your party is the best. If you're a reporter, you're going to have news that comes to you and you have to make ethical decisions. So for example, you might find out bad news about a party that's not yours, and you can choose to honestly report it, downplay it, or, twist it like crazy and run it into the ground. So all of your decisions that go on in the game will affect your outcome, as anything does. So at its core, it's a role-playing game based off of situations and scenarios. Some of them come at you, so it's a daily thing. You get a daily, here's a situation. How do you deal with it? And the other is the other are things that you look for. So they're actions that you go out and say, I am actually going to do this, and you react to that. So what we're going to do is finish up character creation, as I talked about, is what we did last time. So we created new accounts. So you can put in your email, a character name, and a password. You can agree, and you can create a new account. So the question is, what happens next? So we've got a character created. What now? So I spec'd it out a bit. And really what's going to happen in my head, and obviously we're doing this collaboratively, so thoughts you have, I would love to hear. All right, so step one. So the first thing is you're going to display the character's name at top. So welcome this person. You have now created a new character. That's awesome. And we're going to show them to pick a party. So we're going to have to display the 4 parties and an explanation about all of those parties. All right. So then step 2. So the first is just pick a party. So you're going to select that party and then confirm and move to the next step. Step 2 is the personality test. Like any role-playing game, there are skills. So your skills are combat, creativity, stealth, deception. I think I spelt that wrong. There we go. Yes, cookies. So deception, bravery, or I believe we call that integrity. Investigation, let's see, hold on. Let's actually bring up the database. The database is better. Okay. So if I look over here, so we have strength, creativity, stealth, integrity, investigation, charm, fundraising, intimidation, manipulation. So those are the skills you have. The higher value you have in a skill, the better you are at something. So let's say there's a situation that comes up that requires charm. The more charm you have, the better the outcome is going to be. So let's, or potentially the worse it is if you're bad. So let's say you have to do something that requires manipulation or intimidation. Usually those things are going to have a really high reward if they succeed, but if you fail, they have a negative reward. So ultimately, having a low intimidation means if you attempt to do something intimidating, you may end up failing harder. So the personality test is going to ultimately determine these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, these 9 things. Very cute, Cass. Very nice. All right, so we have 9 things. Is the integrity? You're right. Integrity is not a. You're right. Sorry, Shauna. You are correct. Integrity is going to be a personality trait. So that is going to be something you earn as time goes on. That won't be something you're particularly good or bad at. You're right. Okay, so it's only 8. So what I really want to do is match up these 8 into kind of pairs, if that makes sense. So let's close that. All right, so so the personality test. So let's see. So we have strength, creativity, stealth, the tuber YouTube. Hello, how are you? Investigation, charm, fundraising, intimidation, manipulation. All right, so ultimately we need a way to determine, and thank you so much for the follow. I greatly appreciate that. So we need a way to determine how many points you're going to get in all of these stats. All right, Cass, yep. We are building a web-based game, the tuber. We are building, I need a command for this, but yeah, we're building a web-based role-playing game. And the code is available. The code is available for free online. All right, let's see. Let's pair strength versus stealth. Not that you can't be both, but let's just pair them. So let's pair. Okay, let's pair. All right, you know what? We're not going to do that. We're going to go a little bit boring simply because it's going to work. We're just going to simply have an old school picker where you pick values, you press up or down, and you have points to put in. So we have what, 8, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's give 16 points. 16 points. So 16 points to distribute. What are you coding, the tuber? All right, so test 3 was going to be test results, but ultimately it'll be job selection. Maybe job selection should be first. No, I like that you pick what your character would want to do. And then, all right, so then we have job selection. So we have politician, TV personality, campaign manager, reporter. Not sure. Let's see. How would lobbyist? I guess lobbyist works. You know what? I lobbyist is more on the like rules side. So let's keep it simple and let's just have 5 jobs. And then you have a tutorial. So the next step is going to be throw you into your first role. Awesome. Good luck with that, the tuber. I started my first real programming language that I actually did anything big was Visual Basic, using, I guess you can call it Visual Studio, but it was most certainly not Visual Studio back then. All right, so now that we know this, let's take a look and figure out what we want to do. Okay, so now that we have our basic concept of what we're going to build, let's go back. We're going to do most of this in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then only at the end are we going to do anything in PHP or anything like that. So, all right. So we had the create account. So we have these two things. We have a left side and a right side. And then we have our game board. All right. So let's go into our JavaScript. Let's make that bigger. Okay, so we talked about our AJAX call. And AJAX is basically what it's doing is it's sending information to the server and asking for information back. So instead of creating a whole new page and submitting everything and downloading a whole new page again, it's just sending only the data we want and then pulling only the data we want back. So in this case, when a new account was created, we sent an alert to the user saying, "You're in," and that was it, which is terribly boring and not what people actually want to see when they've first created an account. All right, so at this point, I'm going to do a few things. And the first thing is I'm going to declare a variable. A variable is a name that we can use to store a value. And we can pull on that later and read what that is. So I'm going to set a variable. That variable is going to be named sign up step equals 0. All right, so this is a placeholder, and it's going to be called sign up step because it's going to be the step that we use sign up. As you'll notice, I use a few different naming conventions. One is all lowercase with underscores. Some you'll see camel case, which is lowercase first, so something like this. Sign up step. This is mainly used for functions. I use it for functions within classes, and then if I use always capital, so something like this, sign up step, that would mean this is a class or an object. You ultimately can name anything however you wish, but having a naming convention is very, very valuable and very useful. It helps you very quickly look at things and see where things are wrong. Okay, so we have this sign up step, and it's equal to 0. So at this point, so we're going to do sign up step equals 1. So now we're in step 1, and we're going to call next sign up step. So as I said, I use camel case if it's a function. Ooh. All right, so I use camel case. So now we're calling a function. This function doesn't exist yet. So let's create it. So this is just for the jQuery that's assigning elements, things like that. So now we're going to create a new function in JavaScript. So function next sign up step. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create. Now there's many ways to do this, but I'm going to use something called a switch. Switch basically takes a value, and then whatever that value is does a different thing. So you could do it with a lot of if statements. So you could say if sign up step equals 1, then do this. And then you could do an else if sign up step equals 2. So you could do it like this. Performance-wise, it's not a big difference, but it's a little harder to read. So what I'm going to do instead is you go switch. Actually, let me make sure it's called switch in JavaScript. It's different in JavaScript and PHP. So JavaScript switch. Yep, it's switch. Okay. So switch sign up step. All right. So now, thank you so much for the follow, Coder545. All right. So now we have a case and a value. So in this case, if it's 1, then execute anything that's here. Let me just make sure that's the right. Again, PHP is a little different than. Okay. So this is the one case where you don't use an open and closing braces. So it can be a little confusing on that. But what you're doing is, getting a little into the nitty gritty. The way switch works is like this. Switch will take a value. So in this case, sign up step, SIGN, sign up step. So it takes this value, which we just created as just set equal to 1, and we'll find the case where it is correct. And then it will execute all the code below until it hits the word break. What break means in coding is break out of whatever function group you're in now. So if you're doing a loop and you do break, break will get out. So ultimately it says don't continue doing functions. So in theory, I could do case 1, case 2, and case 3, which means if it's 1, 2, or 3, execute all this stuff. I'm not going to be doing that because I'm not using it in that way. So case 2. So how many steps did we decide to have? So we decided the tuber. I am creating a web-based game, a web-based role-playing game. Why can't I? Character creation. Okay, so step 1 is that. Step 2, step 3, and step 4. Okay, so we have 4 steps. All right, so case step 2, break. Case 3, break. And case 4. All right, so these are all our steps. So at this point, I'm going to comment them just so I know what the heck they are. So in this one, so step 1 is party selection. All right, so step 1 was party selection. Step 2 was stat selection. Step 3 is job class selection. And step 4 is tutorial, your first scenario, right? Or did I? Yep, your first scenario. Okay, so those are the 4. So the first thing we're going to do is party selection. So in this case, we know we're coming from that first screen. So what I want to do is I want to do a selector, and I want to pick left side and right side, and let's see, what would be the best? You know what? Let me do this. So let's game board. Is that HTML? Let's just make sure there's nothing else in there I care about. All right, so actually, so left side dot hide, and then right side. Okay, so I'm gonna leave those up. So if we ever need 2 windows, we've got them. They're always gonna be there. And what hide is doing is just literally visually taking those elements and hiding them. So the pound sign means an ID, and left side is this. So we're taking this item, this whole element, and hiding that, and that whole element and hiding that. And I'm gonna add 1, which is div ID full width. All right, so I'm going to full width dot show. So there's hide and show. Hide makes it go away, show makes it come. So I'm going to make this visible. So full width dot show, And then I need to fill it with some sort of information. So let's do that. So ultimately, this is party selection. So I could, there's lots of ways I could kind of set this up. One is kind of grabbing it from the database so that I can dynamically go in and edit this stuff. One is statically putting it in the HTML, which is not a bad idea, but there's a bunch of ways to do this. None of them are particularly right. Some are better than others. But I think for this case, I am just going, All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going, let's see. If I pull this, I'm thinking of putting it in a secondary HTML file so I can easily access it. Let me see if there's an easy way of doing that. Yeah, I guess, you know what, I'll just do that from Ajax. All right. All right, so this is going to call docs party description.html. A post doesn't actually matter what the data is because it just really doesn't matter. It's going to give us a response, and we're just going to set that response full width dot HTML response. All right, that is probably the cleanest I can do that. So now I need to create this. If I go here in my documents, new file, party description.html. All right, now what I can do is I can do this. So H2, let's make that a lot bigger so it's readable. All right, so select a party. Actually, I want to call this something else. What did I call this? Well, some sort of header. Oh no, it's just an H2. Okay, so, all right. All right, so select a party. So now we're going to need a party to select. What would I use for a starter game? Let's see. Personally, whenever I'm learning a new programming language, I always program Pong. I have written Pong in languages one would never expect Pong to be written in. I've written Pong in Pascal and BASIC and PHP. Yep, command line Pong in PHP. I've written it in JavaScript. I've written it in C. I've written it in C++. I've written it. So that's my go-to because it's such a simple game to program, but it really highlights the concepts of different languages. But ultimately, the best game to start with is one you want to code. When you want to do something, you learn how to do it so much better. All right, so select a party. So let's make a div class RID party container. I guess class, because we might reuse this. Party container. All right. I'll call it parties because it's going to be multiple. Okay, so div class is party. ID is party. Let's see, party kumquat. Right, hold on. What are we calling them? There we go. All right, I do realize one weakness of what we're doing, but that's okay. I can easily fix that. Okay, so we have a party here. So I'm going to div class party name, and it's going to be kumquats, and div class party description. Kumquat description here. All right, so we have 4 parties, so let's copy and paste 4 times, and let's coder, this is somewhat a beginner HTML, Java, CSS class or video. I'm doing some things that are not beginner, but for the most part, I'm trying to walk through it all and go through the basics. So that's kind of what this is. If you have no knowledge of HTML and all of this is new to you, then that's probably going to be difficult. But yeah, so let me walk through this. So we created an H2, which is a header level 2. Select a party. So that's going to be the big title, select a party. Then we have a parties container, and this is so we can style everything in here. And then we have one div for each of the parties. So you have a party kumquat, party cupcakes, party cookies, party goobers. So it's cupcakes, cookies, and goobers. And we will get creative and describe them later. But yeah, so you'll have a description here. In fact, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to add more because I want to make sure that everything when styled is at least going to have room for some room. All right. I want everything to look okay. All right. So yeah, so what is going to happen now is I'm going to take the full width, which is going to be our full width container. It's going to hold everything. And that's going to load this HTML into that value there. So the one thing we are missing now is class equals actually ID party selection confirmation. So people click and tap and do all this stuff all the time, and the worst thing you can do is have it so that when someone clicks, taps, whatever, and they press on something, that things just automatically happen. Especially when they're not prepared for it. So what you want to have is confirmation. So we're going to set it up so that the person's going to click. They're going to see. So a party's going to highlight. And then after it highlights, they're going to be there's going to be a confirmation. So the party selection confirmation is going to say continue. All right. So now we have the HTML. And now we need to set up a little bit of JavaScript. Okay. So what's going to happen here is it's going to take all this HTML. It's going to take the code from that one file and load it and slap it into into the main file. And the one thing it's not going to have now is it's not going to have its functionality. So now we need to program in the functionality. So, why are you? Oh, that's why, because it wants to be there. Okay. So what I want to do is now add in the functionality. So I want to tell the JavaScript, I want to tell the document, here is what you do with how and why. So in this case, we have parties, and we want something to happen whenever a party is clicked. Actually, and I'm going to data item equals kumquat. And I will get to this in a second. Actually, hold on. I really don't need to do this if I just do this. No, I want to, yeah, hold on. Data value equals. I just want to be verbose on things, and I might later use that. Data value cookies. Good luck with Xcode. I do not find programming for a Mac enjoyable. Especially not iPad, but that's a whole nother story. Okay. So what I want to do is I have all these with a class, which means I can access them all at once. So I'm going to take that class. So period means class. So select all items that have .party and add a click function to them. So the click function basically will execute every time I click. JavaScript is smart enough to know the difference between a click and a tap, but they all register under this. So the first thing I want to do is take all party and remove class selected. Okay. So there is a trick, well, technically you can't make an official YouTube app, because official would mean YouTube would have to, approve it. You can make an unofficial YouTube app. Yeah. All right. So ultimately we have these 4 set up, and I'm sure you've all seen in a web page where they have a bunch of elements and you click one and it's like a checkbox. When you click it, everything else is unselected and you're selecting this. The best way to do that is with a class. And what you do is whenever you click an item, you remove that class from everybody else, and then you add that class to the one that was clicked. It's the cleanest way of doing it, and basically it's pretty simple. All right, so what I'm doing is taking everything that had party and removing the class selected, and then I'm going to take... Yes. All right. So then I'm going to go this. This in any programming language refers to the object in question that kind of started everything. So in JavaScript, and especially when working with jQuery, this refers to whatever is accepting the action. So since this is coming from the click of a party, then it's this item. So if I click this one, this is this. If I click this one, this is this. I realize I'm using this a million times, but it's a very, very, very useful thing. So this, add class. All right, so what this is going to do is from all of my parties, it's going to remove selected and add selected only to the one party I clicked. Visually, everything else is unselected, and this is selected. And that should be good enough. And let's save this, and I'll show this in 1 second. So the first thing we're going to want to do is do some styling. So let me get the CSS up. Do I have the CSS anywhere? There it is. Okay. So let's close that. All right. So we have our basic CSS. The first thing we're going to want to do, we'll start at the bottom, is take a look at our parties. So in here we have a party container that needs to be described. So let's set up the party container. Is that an ID or okay, it's a class. So party container, parties container, width 100%, border, just, I like adding a border when starting anything. Just it really gives you a good idea as to what you're working with. I remove most of the borders at the end. Solid RGBA 000.6. RGBA is red, green, blue, alpha. Alpha is basically how opaque it is. 000 is black, and then 0.6 means 60%. So this is kind of like a grayish color, so to speak. It's black with an alpha. And then border radius 4 pixels, just so it looks nice if I keep the border. All right, so that's my parties container. Great. At this, we're gonna have to div style equals clear both. I went over this last time, but what I'm going to be doing with these is I'm going to be floating them, maybe, probably displaying them inline block. Sorry, I'm gotta talk too much, gotta make sure I drink. So clear both will ensure that things display below all of that. All right. So we've got our party container. Now we need to set up our party. So dot party. Ooh, all right. So display. So in HTML, there's 3 major display types. There's inline. There's a lot more, but there's 3 really important ones. There's inline, there's block, and inline block. Inline is best thought of as text. Text is inline. One character is after the next character, is after the next character, is after the next character. And then it wraps to the next line. So that is what inline is. Exactly what it sounds like. It is in a line. Then you have a block element. A block element is... it's there, it takes up a physical amount of space, and it pushes everything out the frickin' way. It's like a freight train. Block is okay. It's not a bad thing, but block can cause lots of frustrations. Inline block is a hybrid of the two, which allows you to have block elements be next to each other, which is useful. So it's one of those things you have to just play with it and kind of see how it works to really get a good feel as to what's the right thing to do. Some elements by default are inline. Some elements by default are block. For a div, for example, is defaulted block. Whereas a span is default inline, and H2 I think is default block. So there's all different defaults, but in CSS you can always override. So display inline block. Block also allows you to have a border, a height, and a width. If it's inline, then it will simply take up the minimum amount of space that it can. So that's the big difference between inline and block. All right, so party is inline block. Width is going to be 23%. I would say 25% because 25 times 4 is 100, but I'm going to have some borders and spacing and things are going to get wibbly wobbly, and trust me, it's better this way. So width is 23%. Height, let's just say 320 pixels. Why not? So this is going to be a problem when we get into mobile, but we'll resize everything once we do get into mobile and explain all that. All right, so inline block with 23%, and then put a border so we can actually see what's going on. And we will colorize and make this all look really nice at some point. Now is not that time. Border radius 3 pixels, make it a little smaller. And then we need to do... we're going to do a complex selector. Basically, we're just going to take 2 selectors and put them together. So first is dot party and the second is dot selected. So that means when an item has both party and selected, so it has both of these classes, then give it this styling. So the styling is going to be background color, RGBA. So let's give it a bit of a blue tint. So 0, 180, 0. So that's blue. Oh no, it's green. 00180. And then the alpha, I'll give it like 0.6. All right, so this should be reasonable. All right, so we have our selected. So let's just see how this works so far. All right, so I've saved all this. Let's bring up Firefox. Get out of database view. So now remember, I'm zoomed in like crazy. All right, so I've reloaded. So loon at thewizardloon.com. Character name testing. Password. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. I agree. So we're going to create the account. In theory, what should be happening? And this is about where things explode and then you figure it out and redo it again. So in theory, when I click this create account button, which if I inspect it in Firebug, which is wonderful and amazing, is called create account button. So if I take a look, I have right here the create account button. When I click it, it's going to check to make sure I have clicked on the terms of service. If I don't agree to the terms of service, I can't play. That's good. Terms of service are good. I need to write those. If I haven't, alert and say, hey, you have to agree, and then return false. Assuming things go good, we're doing an AJAX call to create user. We're sending the email address by accessing the sign up email. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so first thing we're doing is checking the agree to terms of service. Then we're doing an AJAX call to create user. We're sending the email address, which is sign up email. We're sending the password, which is your sign up password.val, the value of that, and the sign up name, so the character name. So then, if all of that goes good and we are done with that, then we have our response. So response comes in and we set the sign up step to 1, and then we do next sign up step. If I go to next sign up step, we switch, we take a look. Since this is 1, we're going to hide the left side, hide the right side, show full width. Then we're going to AJAX, we're going to get the entire party description.html document. Post actually doesn't matter, but why not? Then once it's done, we're going to take the entire value of that and put it into our full width. And then we're going to set up the JavaScript for that. So that should be able to at least select. So let's take a look. I hit create account. Preemptive excitement. Yay! All right, so this is styled like ugly, but that's okay because we didn't really style it. So now the second question is, so I got our continue button. So the second question is, does this select? And it does. It is an ugly color of, I guess you could call that blue. All right, but it works. So as you see with the toggle, as I was saying, you're removing selected from everything and then adding selected only to this. All right. So now that we have this, we have to figure out why the heck everything is so darned ugly. All right. So the first question is, why do we have this bunch of extra space? So let's take a look here. So we have our clear both before this. So there's something going on here. So I am going to open it in Firebug, which I realize, let me see, you know what, let me add. That's, hold on. Firebug. Properties. Firebug the cam. Okay, so Firebug is going to be very hard for you to see. I'm having this on here simply because it is, I just want you to see that, like, I'm doing things. So yeah, so Firebug is an inspector that allows me to edit things on the fly, which is wonderful and amazing. So right here, I can take the party. I know you can't see this. I can't make it bigger. I wish I could. But I can change the height. So right now it's at 230 and I'm making it a lot smaller. So what am I going to need? I'm going to need about, so this is at 180. Okay, so let's say 180. So now I can adjust my width. So it's not the width. So 23%. See what happens? This is 25%. So it bumps over. And this is 24%. So I'll stick at 24%. All right, so now the question is, why are things going here? So display, if I display inline, first off, see, I lose all of my stuff. So display inline block. And then I think maybe, is it baseline? And then middle? Hold on. CSS baseline. So what I'm trying to do is get all the elements to line up correctly. And there is a bunch of things about the baseline, which can be complex. And the other option I have is, instead of doing this, what I can do is make them block and then float them, which is actually what I'm considering doing now. All right, so if I make them just block and float left, there we go. All right, so if I do block and float, that works perfectly. So let's do that instead. I'll explain that in a second. Then padding 3 pixels and margin 3 pixels. So I'm giving it some space. As you can see, there's now space. Oh, let's go here. You can see there's space here and space here. There's more space here. All right, so that is much better. And all right, so now that I've done that, let me copy this new HTML, this new style that I have, that I did in Firebug. So let's close out of do that. Let's go back to code. All right. So if I go back to the code and I go back to my HTML or my CSS right here. So I go back here to the party and I put in, oh, I guess I just did the whole thing. All right, so what did I change here? The border stayed the same. The border radius stayed the same. I changed it to block, and I did something called float. What float does is it basically allows block elements to be next to each other. If you don't float them, then they just kind of go all willy-nilly. What I was trying to do before was inline block. And the problem with inline block is it tries to get everything centered, and some of them, because of the text size, was larger and some were smaller. So it was trying to center them on a weird way. So I just float left. That's fine. So I set my height. My height is 180, which is smaller than what I originally had. And my width is 23% so that it all has room with the padding and everything else. Margin is your area outside of the box, and padding is your area inside the box. So what I was doing is just creating space so that the text and everything else wasn't butted up against the edge. Okay, so now we need to class button. All right, so now we need to style the continue button. So we have. So first thing is we have button. So I gave it a class button because I want to reuse it. Buttons are buttons or buttons are buttons, and I want them all to look the same. And I actually have button. And so I might as well just make it a button. So let's just do that. So button. Button is an HTML tag as of HTML5. Pretty much every browser accepts it. So at this point, you're pretty safe. All right, so we have button, and then now we have to do the special. So we take the ID, party selection confirmation. So in this case, I want it to be all the way on the right side of the screen, that side of the screen. So there's a lot of ways I could do that. I could float it, but ultimately what I'm going to do, actually, I will float it, and I'll put another one of these. Your stream froze. Looks okay to me, Zernalaros. Everything's okay. Try reloading. All right. So I'll put in another clear both, and this I'm going to float right. So float right. So the float left meant everything was on the left and then went from left to right. On the right, float right means everything's on the right and then pushes that way. So float right. And all right, so we have that. So now this next thing we need to do is make it do something, because right now that button doesn't do anything. There's no actions. So we'll go here and we'll give it an action. Woo! That was. So that's the ID of the button. All right. Dot click. So we're adding another function. So we're adding another click function to here. So again, the ID selection, this is hashtag, pound, whatever you want to call it, means an ID. And then we have the name of our element and click. So when this is clicked, we want to do one thing. First is we want to see if the user has selected something. If they haven't selected anything, we don't want to do anything. So we want to check dot party dot selected dot length. So if so equals 0, alert, you need to select a party. At some point I'll replace the alerts with a better system, but alert is a very basic, boring system alert. Okay, so to walk through what's going on here. So the first thing is, this is a jQuery selector. It's selecting the element that we have and doing something with it. So in this case, we're selecting the class party that also has the class selected. So as we know, by default, none of these are selected until we click on them. Then when we click on them, we remove selected from everything and add it only to what we've done. So we know that a user can't continue until they have at least selected one. So what I'm doing is selecting all of the elements here that have party and selected. Then I'm using the dot length. Dot length is a way in JavaScript and most programming languages to determine how many of something is in a collection. So it can tell you how many items are in an array. It can tell you all these things. So in this case, it'll tell you how many items have party and selected. In this case, we're looking for 0. So double equals. In JavaScript, having single equals is assigning. So A equals 1, A is now 1. A equals 1 is checking, you know, let's comment this so it doesn't keep yelling at me. So A equals 1. Does A equal 1? Okay, so that's the difference. So single equals is it's assignation. It's saying this is this. Double equals is a comparator. Does A equal 1? Okay. So taking a look at this length, if the length equals 0, so if there's nothing selected, throw an error. Else, so if there is more than one selected, then we can continue. So what we're going to do is next sign up step. And in fact, I realize what I want to do is sign up step plus plus. Okay, so what did I just do? So what ultimately this function is called next sign up step. So what we want to do is we want to find out the next step in the process. What we were doing previously is we were setting, say, sign up step equals 1. The problem with that is that assumes we know what step we're on, which we do in the code, but I'm just trying to mentally get into certain things. So in this case, what we're doing is the next sign up step is going to increment this value. In most programming languages, plus plus means give me the next number. So it's equivalent to sign up step equals sign up step plus 1. So these two things are exactly the same. They do exactly the same thing. But as you see, this is a lot smaller and simpler and cleaner than this. So yeah, so all right, so we're starting with 0. So we get 1 and we run through here. So if you click next sign up step from here, it will say, oh, okay, we were at 1, now we're at 2. So go to the switch and we go to our case and case 2. So case 2 is stat selection. Okay, so in stat selection, so we're going to var sign up values. All right. So we're going to have sign up values. So what are sign up values? The sign up values are what you input and what you selected. So in this case, you've selected something. So we're going to take that something dot data. What did we call it? Value. So sign up values party equals. Okay, so now here's where we get into some very, very powerful, mildly complex things. So sign up values, which I declared up here, is an array. An array has braces. In fact, actually, let me do an object just because it'll be easier. Yeah. Okay. Just because JavaScript's easier that way. Okay. So sign up values is these are curly braces, an open and a close. So what that means is it is going to be an object. An object, I'm mainly using it because with an object, what I can do is key value pairs. That means that I can say this key has this value. So I can say sign up values dot Bobster Tech. Thank you so much for the follow. So sign up values dot name equals Bob. Sign up values I think you're hyper. I think you mean OOP, which is object-oriented programming. And yeah, well, JavaScript objects are a whole different ballgame, but we are doing things object-oriented. So I have our user object. So this is an object. This user is an object and a class. Zernalos, thank you so much for the follow. And so yeah, so this is what it's doing is it's building things reusably. There's two types of programming: functional programming and object-oriented programming. Functional is literally just lines of code and a function and functions, and things are just called in a logical straight order and it does what it does. object-oriented coding is saying, here is a concept like a car or a dog. And every time you want to make a new dog or a car, you take that object and then fill in the specific unique data elements. So it's much more reusable. It's great. So sign up values dot party equals, kumquat. So what it allows you to do is take one variable and then you can have sub variables, so to speak. And what makes this really good is at the end of the sign up process, when we're ready, all I have to do is pass this one value to the sign up form in the back, and it will handle the rest. As opposed to having to track a large number of values. And also, while this is static, these are dynamic. So I can constantly add or subtract values away. So that's why I'm using objects. That's why I'm using an object. In JavaScript, you can also use an array, but an array is only numbers. So var test array equals. So an array uses the flat braces. Hyper, is there any reason not to do OOP? One, there are some programming languages that are simply not object-oriented. Two, you don't always need it. If you're writing a small script, I've written scripts that are 10, 15 lines of code. Sometimes you just don't need to. It's just overkill. So there's those are pretty much the big reasons not to, is sometimes you just don't need to. So I have a test array. So now if I do like test array dot push is how you add an item. Orange, and then push apple, then test array 0, because arrays start at 0, equals orange, and test array 1 equals apple. So what's great about this is that I just keep adding items to it and it's get there. But by using an object, I can actually name them. In PHP, which we'll be using on the back end, in PHP, arrays can have string names. So you can have an associative array like that. You just can't do that in JavaScript. Bobster, yes. In PHP, you can create an array that has strings. So in PHP, you can do, array, name equals Bob. But in JavaScript, to have this, you have to have an object. Just the way it is. All right. So now that we have an object, so sign up values, I could do it this way, but I'm going to do it this way. So yes. So there's two ways. I could do it this way. These two are equivalent. I can access it this way or this way. What's nice is this is dynamic. So in theory, I could have this be another variable. So I could do sign up values, sign up step. So I could do that. So it's great if you want to iterate through an entire array, but no worries. All right. So I'm going to take the item that I get from party.selected. I'm going to get the data value, and then I'll get the data value. Objects are slightly slower than arrays in JavaScript. The time differential is minor. It's not worth it unless you're in doing an insane amount of arrays or an insane amount of objects. And by insane, I mean upwards of 100,000. If you're doing even just a few thousand, the time difference is going to be nominal. All right. So we're going to assign to sign up values. The party is your party selected and data value. So I was talking about where data value comes from. So I have data and then value. So data, value, and then it's going to give me kumquats, cupcakes. In fact, this should be kumquats because it's an S. All right, so they're all, yeah, okay. So, and then go to next sign up step. So next sign up step, great. Case 1, we did that, so now we're on 2. So, we're going to take our full width and clear the HTML. So everything that was in there doesn't matter anymore. So now we've completely cleared it out. So if we go back here, so this will all go away. So select a party, and this is all going to go away, and we're going to build another screen. All right, so what is that other screen? If we take a look in so this is stat selection. So I think I'm going to do exactly what I did last time, and I'm going to load everything in. The reason I'm doing this is because if I were to take all this HTML and put it into the code, you would have to load it every time. So even if you weren't creating a new user, you'd have to have all this extra HTML there. So really what I'm doing is minimizing the amount of HTML and minimizing the amount of basically nothing is sent to the front end until it's needed. And that's perfectly fine with me. All right, so put that there. Ooh. All right, so stat selection. All right, so let's call this stat selection. All right, so we finished party description. So let's create a new one under docs, new file stat selection.html. Add it to Git, yes. There was a little pop-up I realized you can't see. It's not a big deal. Basically said, do you want to add this to Git? This isn't a GitHub repository. I will be pushing the code again tonight, so you'll get to see all the changes. All right, so what do we want? We want an H2 stat selection. So this is where probably the most abuse can happen, because someone could just, you know, if we put in limits on JavaScript, we're going to have to put in checks because someone's obviously going to try and make max stats on everything. All right, so we need a div ID as stat container. And then we need a div class is stat. We'll do sign up stat because I have a feeling at some point we're going to display stats in other places, and we may not want to use the, so I'll call it sign up. Sign up stat container. All right, so sign up stat container. So we're going to have World's Ender. It is not quite yet ready. We're just building the sign up and user creation. But soon you will be able to play. That's the hope. Is get there sooner rather than later. All right, so we have the sign up stat, so we're going to need a name. So let's span. So, all right. A div is a division, a subsection, a block element. A span is very similar. The only difference is a span is inline. So it's really good for text. So span class is sign up stat name. And so this is where the stat will go. And then we need a value. So input type is text. All right, so now at this point, I'm going to switch over and I'm going to see. So we're using a JavaScript library called jQuery. jQuery has a wonderful, wonderful library called jQuery UI. And jQuery UI allows you to do really, really, really awesome stuff very, very quickly. So, for example, they have a I'll zoom in. They have a draggable, a droppable, resizable, selectable, sortable, accordion widgets, autocomplete widgets, buttons, date pickers, all this stuff. All of this stuff is really, really, really well documented and really easy to add. So what I'm going to look for is see if there's ones. Yes, World's Ender, and this is completely open source, so you don't even have to try. You can just look at the code and figure it out. And that's why it's open source, is so that you can make recommendations on how we can fix things. So yes, so ultimately I'm going to take a look and maybe select menu. So in this case, I can do some selectors. It's not really what I want. What I want is like an a easy button to make it go up and down. That's not too much. So let's see. Progress bar. So there's some that I know what I want. A slider. Is that the word? Yes. Okay. So it's a slider bar. And this is a little hard to see, but this is pretty easy to implement. All right, so the first thing I'm going to need to do is go back here. And add jQuery UI. So Google Code also has no. Google Code also has jQuery UI in part of their hosted libraries, which means we can get the latest from there, which is wonderful because that means that we don't have to host it ourselves, and it's all right there. So I'm going to paste that in. So what that's doing is we're including the Google APIs version of jQuery. And so this is a CSS file for jQuery UI. There's a lot of CSS elements. And this is just simply their script. So yeah. So we've included that. So now that we've included that jQuery UI, we can use the slider whenever we want. So let's go back to the slider and see what we need to do. All right, so range sliders. Let's take a look. I said that's that. Slider scroll bar. Nah. All right, so let's see. Default is that. Color picker, multiple sliders. No. Snapped increments. No, but we do want this. We want to be able to see what we're selecting. And vertical slider now. Snapped increments. All right, so let's view source. So if I view source, that literally gives me the entire source of the entire code. So that's all the header stuff. So here's my function. Here's what's most important. It's slider. Gives me a default value, a minimum, a maximum, a step. And then it's saying on slide, set the value to whatever the value is selected. Okay. Now here's my issue. I want to figure an easy way so that someone can only have up to 10. Or what did we say for our maximum? Let's see. Character creation, 16 total points. All right, you know what? We'll do this the boring way. We'll actually hand code it. All right. So this shouldn't be too bad. All right, so let's go back to our stat selection. Okay. So stat selection, I need to break that out. Okay, so we have the stat. And then what we're going to have is another div class is sign up stat value. Okay. So in the value, we're going to have div class sign up stat value display. Okay, so that's going to display the actual value. So everything's going to start at 0. Then you're going to have div class sign up stat value controls. And in here, you're going to have div class sign up stat value increase and decrease. So we'll style these. So plus and minus. All right, so that people can follow this a bit. So ultimately, we have this giant stat block. So this is a single stat will be in here. On the left, what we'll just there we go. I'm so sorry. The tuber, welcome back. All right, so what we have here is a giant stat block. And there we go. So giant stat block. In here is the stat name. So the stat name is, strength, creativity, stealth, etc., etc., etc. Then we have our value, and the value is going to start showing 0, and then you're going to see a plus and minus next to that stat that's going to let you increase it or decrease it. Simple enough, right? Okay. And all right. So we have, let's take a look at our stats. We have 8 stats. So let's see. So we have strength. So ID equals sign up stat strength. Data value strength. All right. So now we need to do this, 8 times. So 1, 2, and let's clean this up. Just so that we're not copying and pasting and having to delete. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so we have strength, we have creativity, creativity. And then we have stealth, stealth. So yes, this is really what coders do. I code for a living. So yes. We really sit here and copy and paste. It's our day. Copy and paste is wonderful. It's how you learn. It's how you get started. And there's a lot of really smart people out there who have already written code. So why would you not? Fundraising. 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 Intimidation. 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 And all right, thank you so much, Shauna. Have yourself a wonderful evening. Manipulation. 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 All right. So now we've got all that. So now let's style this a bit. So the first thing I want is the tuber. Are you on the latest iOS? Because I think you need the latest iOS, and you can get Xcode from the App Store. Why? You should have no troubles with that. All right, so sign up stat name. Let's first. All right, sign up stat name, font weight, bold, font style, italic. Why? I don't know. Let's just see how it works. We can always play with things. Okay, so stat name. Yeah, no, you can't get Xcode on Windows 7. No, Xcode is Mac only. If you want to develop for Mac, you have to buy a Mac. Welcome to Mac. Welcome to the Mac universe. All right, so we need a sign up stat value. So sign up stat value. Sign up stat value. So this we're going to float on the right. Whoop. So we're going to shift that over to the right side. And let's see what else. So this whole thing, this whole block is going to be floated on the right. So that means sign up stat. So sign up stat. Ooh. Width 100%, border top 1 pixel solid. Actually, I'll just border bottom. 1 pixel solid, RGBA 0.6. I haven't played with Swift yet. I did Objective-C for a while. I did a lot of framework coding, so coding for HTML type frameworks. I don't love it, but I'm sure if I learned it better, I'd enjoy it more. All right, so that's good. So that should clear that. All right, so now we have the sign up stat display value. That's fine. So sign up. Let's see, sing up, sign up, sing up. There we go. So let's replace all uses of sing up with sign up because I'm gonna mess that up all day long. All right, so sign up stat value controls. So this is gonna need to float right. Ooh. Float right. And sign up stat value. Ooh, so this is also going to be width, let's say 8 pixels. And increase is going to be font size like 6 pixels, maybe 8 pixels, width 8 pixels, height 8 pixels, and border 1 pixel solid. 0.6. We're gonna colorize and do all that stuff later. Border radius 2 pixels. All right, so increase and decrease will all be the same. If you wish things to be the same, then you just put a comma. So increase and decrease style-wise are going to be the same. Okay. So now we're just going to test to see if this works and play around with the CSS a little bit. And then once that is all done, we will add in the HTML. So let's go to Firefox. Firefox. Nope. Bring up. Oh, there it is. Okay. So go back to the campaign. So let's reload. All right. So wizardloon.com. Character name loon. Password. I agree. All right. So good, we knew this worked. Okay, so we pick a party. So if I pick a party and hit continue, almost. So this is close, surprisingly. All right, so the first things first, we need to figure out. So let's bring up Firebug, which I have, and every language has its pros and cons. All right, so if I bring up Firebug again, the first thing I'm actually going to do is go into console, and I'm going to console.log, which basically means output. I realize you can't really read this, but you're going to have to trust me on all this. So I'm going to console log first our sign up values and just see what's going on. So if I take a look, I actually got some output here. And the it says we have an object and party equals cupcakes. So success. We know what party we picked. So that's all that matters. All right, so now the next thing is, let's inspect this and let's see. So something's happening here with the float is really what's going on. All right, so I'm gonna first see if sign up stat value is float right. So what if I do width 100 pixels? Okay, so that almost. So really, I think the issue is here. So let's say sign up stat height 24 pixels. Let's see. All right, so no, all right, so that did ultimately do it sooner or later. All right, so let's give ourselves some room. All right, so height 24 pixels looks about right. All right, so let's go back to code real quick. I'm not gonna switch windows, I'm just changing one value. Sign up stat height 24 pixels. Okay. So that's good. All right, so now let's edit again. So if you look here, so when I highlight, when I put my mouse over, what's nice is it shows me what is broken and why. So if I take a look at sign up stat value. So sign up stat value display and the sign up stat value controls are wonky. So sign up stat value, so let's say width is 18 pixels. Okay, so that's good. And all right. Oh, hold on. Wait, what is this? All right, so now I want the sign up stat value display. Add rule. Float left. All right, there we go. Okay. So sign up stat value display needs to be floating left. All right. So now the plus and minus, I'll zoom in, but the plus and minus are kind of eh. So let's clean those up a bit. So let's text align center. There we go. Okay, so if I text align center and the minus, why is minus being, all right, so if I text align center, text align center. All right. And then, so these are off a bit. So what I can do here is I can do line height. And then 4 pixels. I type it in right. Line height 4 pixels. All right, so now if I go up and down with that. So what line height is doing is setting how much height there is. So I can't really get my plus and minus the way I want to, but that's okay. So line height 7 pixels is about where I want it. So let's copy that. And They're a little ugly, so let's give them a little margin top 2 pixels or 1 pixel. 1 pixel. Okay, good. So they've got some things to them. Okay. So these are going to be really hard, I realize, to press if you're on mobile. So let's make this mobile friendly immediately. And let's have these, instead of being on top of each other, let's have them huge. So instead of 8 and 8, let's make them 18 pixels by 18 pixels. Height, so width, 18 pixels. All right, so let's make them 18 by 18. I mean it to be big, but yeah, I can zoom out a bit. I zoom in so that it's more readable. All right, so let's get these. So we need the stat value control. No, yeah. So this needs to be bigger. All right. Increase needs to, I can float them both left. So float left. All right. So I need this to be. Okay. So this needs to be 42. The sign up stat value needs to be 42 with 42 pixels. And then sign up stat value. No. Yeah. Sign up stat value 64. Yeah. The sign up stat value 64. Sign up stat value. Where did that go? With 64 pixels. Okay, and these were floating left. Float left. Actually, I'll just copy paste this at this point. All right. There we go. Okay, so now we're getting there. We just need to change the font size. So font size gets bigger. Line height. Line height 17. Yeah, just copy and paste that. All right, so basically I just tweaked the CSS so that things looked reasonable. And then there we go. All right, so now we need to make these actually do something. Which shouldn't be too terrible. And we also need a button to continue. All right, so there we go. So that's what it'll look like to normal people. And that's what it looks like so that we can actually see what's going on. All right, so let me kill Firebug and let's go back to code. All right, so now if I take a look, I go to all right, stat selection. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is add a function to the up and down. So stat selection, so we get our selection. And now we need to get rid of this because that was our old code. That was our code that was copy pasted. We don't need to copy paste anymore. All right, so we're going to add to the sign up stat increase dot click. So we're gonna add a function here. And the decrease and increase are almost going to be the same thing, but obviously there's going to be a different value. Okay, So with an increase, the first thing we're going to need is we're going to need a variable up here. So var total sign up total stat value. So this is going to be so that we don't have to constantly check for the value. This can be cheated in. Someone can just go in and edit this value. But on final submit, we will do a validity check on the variable. So yeah. All right. So with the increase, what we're going to do is if sign up total stat value is less than or equal to, or less than 16, because 16 was our max, then we're going to let them do that. Otherwise, else, alert, you may not increase your stats beyond total of 16 points. Please remove. That's fine. That's fine. We don't have to. We can assume people know that you have to go down. All right. And same thing as if sign up. Actually, yeah, sign up total stat value greater than 0. That's fine. If they're trying to hit down and it's already 0, I'll let it stay. Then yeah, that's fine. All right. So now what we want to do is we want to increase. So sign up total stat value plus plus. So we will add that value. Hello. Yes, we are building the sign up. Did I spell it sing up again? We are finishing the sign up process for the game. So you're still early in the game development process. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is figure out which one was clicked. So if we go to our HTML, ultimately what we want to do is we're going to go to the we're going to find the parent that has the ID that has the sign up stat class. Hello, cat is a fat. How are you? So ultimately we want to go all the way up and find that. So let's see. jQuery find parent class. Is it closest? Hold on. I'm just looking something up for myself. Find parent with class. Let's take a look at the parent. Come on, where's... Okay, so that's what I want. All right, so I'm going to go and type this. So I'm going to take this one. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the parent. Parent will look upwards through the HTML document. That way. So it's going to start. So I'm clicking this, and I want to find the parent here. So the parent is sign up stat, and it's going to have this, and the value is strength. And it's going to have a sign up stat display value. All right, so the first thing we want is sign up stat. So we want the parent and dot sign up stat. Okay. So what we're doing is we're finding the parent that has this. And then from here, we're going to take dot find. Okay. So we're doing quite a bit of things here. So all of these are objects. And what we're doing here in jQuery is we're doing something called object chaining, which means we're doing this and then dot parent, give me this function. And then from here, dot find me this thing and then do this. So we're basically just doing things, one step at a time, working our way through the chain. All right, so sign up stat value display dot HTML. All right, so we're getting the value of this stat. So stat value. All right. Oh, I don't want to clear it. .html will clear it. All right. Now, there are better ways to do this, or there's a lot of different ways to do this. This is the way I'm going to do it. All right, so we're going to set the value at stat value plus 1. Actually, I'll just stat value plus plus. .html actually is to parse. Nope, hold on, it's a function. Parse int. Okay, so .html is going to return a string. So even if it's 1, for example, if it's returning 1, this is a string. I can't add to a string because what would you be adding? It doesn't know the difference between 1 and 1. It's 1. So ultimately what I'm doing, parse int, will try and take that and turn 1 into 1. So then I can increase the value, stat, and then, so adding 1 should increase the value. And then, okay, so I'm finding that again, I'm increasing the stat value by 1. And that increases this. Okay, so that should be fine. So the negative should be exactly the opposite. All right, so stat value total. So the first thing I need to do is I need to check before I increase. Stat value is if stat value greater than 0, because we don't want to decrease it if it's less than 0. So stat value greater than 0, then I can do everything else. So then I can do minus minus, so reduce it. And then I can take the stat value, minus minus, and set it to the new stat value. All right. So that should be our plus and minus. And let's just make sure this works. One never knows. Hey, Talia, how are you? All right, so we'll delete all these password. Okay, so we know so goobers. Okay, so we need something didn't get saved in the design, so let's figure out what it was. First, let's see if this, so height 24 pixels. All right, so that's not it. So let's put it back at 24. All right, so sign up stat. Let's see if making this bigger, nope. All right, 64, I think it was. All right, so then something here. These are floating. Oh, okay, I know what it was. The sign up stat value container needs to be bigger, right? All right. I'm doing well in yourself. All right, so sign up stat value container at 42, I think. All right, so sign up stat value container I realize you can't see. Sorry about that. There we go. All right. So sign up stat value container. Right? No, which one was it? It's sign up stat value container. So I can, or controls. So width is 42. All right, and let's see what else is broken. So let's just show you Firebug. All right, so we've got Firebug going. So what is not good here? Okay, so stat value, this needs to be a lot higher, doesn't it? Nope, that's the wrong thing getting bigger. All right, so this needs to be 32. Let's see, is that? No, I really don't need, it's 24 maybe? Hey, creative, how are you? All right, so sign up stat value display is 24. Value display, 24. All right, and creative, thank you so much for the hosting. I greatly appreciate that. All right, so 24, and then sign up stat value. There we go. Is 80 pixels. So sign up stat value is 80 pixels and text align right. Okay. Pretty crap. What happened? What happened there, creative? Okay. So now that we got that figured out, so let's see. All right, so I'm pressing buttons and things aren't working. What am I doing? Well, right now I'm tweaking CSS, or was tweaking CSS. Now let's see what's going on. All right. Nothing happened. That is correct. So let's see. So maybe I didn't reload properly, which I think I did, but let's just see. All right, so let's inspect this. This is sign up stat value increase, and it's a class. All right, so let's paste it in here. All right, so sign up stat value increase. Let's just double check that that is the actual name in the code. Sign up stat value increase. All right, dot click function. Alert attempting to increase. And then alert sign up total stat value. All right, so let's see. Maybe we messed something up somewhere. Of course we messed something up somewhere. Let's see where we messed something up. Okay, so if I go back here, plus. All right, so attempting to increase, so it does work. 16. Okay. So it was increasing. And I can't increase above 16. Okay. All right, so I can't do 16. So let's see where things went wrong. Where did things go wrong? So let's reset sign up value equals 0. Run. Okay. So if I reset, attempting to increase, it's 1. Okay. And it didn't set. Thinking is okay, creative. Thinking is okay. All right. So now, Cat is a fat. Thank you so much for the follow. All right. So let's see where we went wrong. So now is the part of coding where you bang your head into the keyboard until you figure things out. Okay. So stat value. So let's see if it's getting, so there's a lot going on here, and I have a feeling that some of this is acting weird. So what I want to do is, let's do some debugging. Or let's be a little bit smarter. Okay, so we have stat value controls. Data stat value equals 0. All right, so at least all right, because data will try and return an integer too. So this will be a lot cleaner. All right, so what I'm doing now is giving the container, my apologies. There we go. Okay, so what I just did was added a data stat value to all of the control. So what that means, so I just added 0 to all of them. So when I hit plus or minus, I'll go right to the parent and set the stat value. In fact, I'm going to put it here. So I'm going to I'm going to put it there. First, let me remove it from everywhere. Okay. So the stat value will reside totally in that parent. And that will allow us to access it a lot quicker than it will be to try and go through and set the HTML one. All right, now just to test creativity, let's be creative and give creativity a 3. Okay, so now we already know something is wrong. Okay, so let's fix. All right, so stat value is, we don't need to parse int anymore, which is good. Is this dot parent sign up stat. So we don't need to find dot data stat value. Okay, so that's our stat value. We're going to increase it. Then we're going to reload it. So we're going to save it back to the HTML. And then we're going to find, so we're going to find the parent, signu, okay, sign up stat. We're going to find then from that parent, we're going to find the stat value. And all right, so console.log trying to update stat to stat value. All right, so we're going to report back to Firebug what our new value is. If this works, so this is the plus. If this works, then we'll copy and paste it to the minus. All right, so bring Firefox back. Reload. All right, create account. Be like kumquats this time. All right, so let's bring up Firebug. All right, so if I take a look in my console, when I hit plus, trying to set update stat to nan. NaN means not a number. So something went wrong here. So what that means is stat value is not getting. So this dot parent dot data stat value. So let's take a look. If I inspect it, so let's see why that happened. So if I inspect this dot parent dot stat name, no, dot sign up stat. All right, so what I'm going to do is, as a test, I'm going to give it an ID, test element, and then I'm going to try to run my code again. And so instead of this, I'm going to do test element. Undefined. All right. So parent is not working the way I hoped it would. What object are you finding? It's telling me it's finding an object. Oh. Why did that not work? That should work. Dot parent dot sign up stat. Is it not called sign up stat? Let's see. Yeah, it's just called sign up stat. Let's see. Oh, hold on. Maybe it's dot parents. That could be why. Parents. There we go. We just didn't have the right word. It was parents, not parent. Parent, it only gets the one item that it's in, so I will get back to the... So parents was giving, our parent was only giving us this, because this is the direct parent. Parents looks all the way back up. So that was the issue. We were using parent and not parents. Yay. All right, so this dot parents. So that should work now. And that should probably solve this problem down here. But since we're using the new code, we might as well just change this. All right, so stat value minus minus. Oh, wait, hold on. All right, so stat value is that. All right, and there we go. Okay. Let's reload this. And I agree. Cupcakes. All right, here's the moment of truth. And there we go. There's the moment of truth. Okay, so we're here now again. Let's get our Firebug and let's add. Oh, yeah. So this was 3, so now it's 4. And we can't go below 0. And we can't go beyond 16, and the reason we're seeing 19 is because this was originally 3. So that's actually working the way I want it to. Okay, good. Now we need a continue button. Why do we need a continue button? Because continue. We're also going to need some explanation of these stats, but that's for a little bit later. All right, so that's a success. So let's get rid of Firebug. Let's get rid of that. Go back to here. All right, so now we need to go back here. And div class or button. ID. Let's see. Sign up. Stat continue. Right? Is that Okay, yes, sign up stat continue, which continue can have the same styling as the other button. Sign up stat continue. All right, so that should be okay for now. And then I just need a div style clear both. Okay, so now we need to add actions to this button. So let's add here. We're taking that, adding a click function. All right, so now ultimately we're going to want to get to next sign up step. But we're going to want to check to ensure only 16 points have been spent. All right. So check that only 16 points have been spent. How are we going to do that? Well, first we're going to have to take our sign up values and add a stats. So sign up values dot stats equals. So we're going to set another object, and then I'm going to do dot sign up stat dot each. So what this will do is it's going to run this function for everything that's a sign up stat. So in this case, sign up stat. And it's going to go through each one of these. So it's going to give me the value and the stat value. So var total value check equals 0. All right, so now what I want to do is to prevent cheating, people can put in negative values. So I want to see if there's any negative values. So if this dot data stat value less than 0. All right, is that, yeah, okay, so if it's less than 0, then alert a stat is now less than 0. That cannot be. All right, and then we'll break out of this. Okay. All right, so now, otherwise, we're going to total value check plus equals. Plus equals is basically the equivalent of saying equals total value check plus something. It's just shorthand notation. It's just easier to write and read. This dot data stat value. Okay. And then sign up values dot stats, and then this dot data, and I think it's just called value. Equals. All right, so what we're doing is basically setting up a multi-dimensional array. And howdy Sal, by the way. So we're setting up a multi-dimensional array so that intimidation is going to be equal to 0 or whatever the value is. So it'll be easier for us. Basically, I'll have to write it once. I don't have to check each stat name. So I'm setting the variable based off of whatever the value is in here, which I think should work, but we're going to need to test it. All right, so sonnet values is that. All right, and we're doing a total value check. If total value check in equal to 16, break and alert. You have 16 points to spend and must spend them. Okay, so if they've spent less than 16 points or more than 16 points, else. So if they've more or less than 16 points, then, then it will throw them an error. Otherwise, it will continue. Next sign up step. All right, so that was 2. So now 3, job and class creation. So I think we're going to do what we did last time, which was clear it and load. All right, so full width, we're going to clear it out. Then we're going to set our, so instead of stat selection, it'll be job selection. So job selection. So let's take our stat selection. We don't need that anymore. And let's create a new file, job selection.html. And let's just take a look at our stat selection. All right, stat selection and this container. That's all I really want. All right, so job selection. Let's zoom in so it's readable. There we go. All right, job selection. Job selection container. All right, so not a lot of jobs, but they have descriptions. So div class equals sign up job. Div class sign up job name. Div class sign up job description. All right, so data job name. All right, and we'll use the whole selected. All right, so jobs we have we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5. We got rid of lobbyist. All right, so 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Politician. Hey, Fifth Empire, thank you so much for the follow. I greatly appreciate that. All right, so politician. Sign up job name, politician. A politician is blah, blah, blah. Copy this over, make sure it can handle big. All right, so we get politician. TV personality. TV personality. And then copy that over. We have a campaign manager. Well, if you're trying to learn web-based games, this is the place to be. I update the code as every night, and we're very early on in the process. TV personality. Sure, it's blah blah blah. All right, reporter. Reporter. Let's copy this. Reporter. And then a thug. I think we have a better word for that, but I don't know. For now, we're calling it thug. Thug. All right. A thug. All right. So we'll fill in the rest of the text at some other point. All right, so we've got this. So now we've got our selections. So I think we're gonna treat this similar to when we had the parties. The parties, we had 4 in a row. I'm not sure if we can get 5 in a row, so we might do them wide and then have them on top of each other. I'm okay with that, but we need a button at the end. So button ID is job selection continue. Continue. All right, so I am afraid. Creative. It's a purple and green shoe. What? I don't know what to say about purple and I hope they make you happy. All right, job selection continue. All right, so let's CSS. Where was okay? They're custom, yeah. Custom LeBrons. I don't know. Should I be impressed? I don't know how to be impressed about that kind of stuff. Glow in the oh, that's I glow in the dark and pimp do not go together. There's nothing it's nothing about those two words that go together. Oh, all right. Let's see. All right, so we did that. All right, so now we need to just test this. Not test it. Now we need to design it a little bit. All right, so let's make sign up job full width. All right, so width 100%. Border bottom 1 pixel, solid 0.6. Margin bottom. As long as you're happy, creative. As long as you are happy. All right, so sign up job. So job is going to be full. So sign up job name is going to be float left with 140 pixels. I don't know. Text, weight, bold, text style, italic. Holy crap! At $245, the answer is no. No. Think of the amount of people in Africa you could feed for $245. Think of the people who have the children who have cancer in this country who can't afford to pay for their own medical care. And think of how much that would help. I can't imagine. I have never spent $245 on shoes in my life. Well, I probably have, but I've never spent more than like 30 or 40 bucks on a pair of shoes. Maybe 60 for like nice shoes. I don't get it. Oh, All right. So job description is gonna float right. And since we're floating things, float right. So width, you're gonna be 25%. Width, you're gonna be 73% because I like a little bit of buffer. And then I'm going to need div style clear both. Otherwise, everything's gonna run into itself. So whoop. All right. So yeah, so sign up job description. Okay, so this isn't terribly exciting, but that's fine. Okay, so now let's get into the selection aspect of it. So now that we've loaded all this, we want to go up and we'll borrow from our code from before. So we had up here the selection. So our selection code from party. So first off, it's not a party, it's a sign up job now. So sign up job. So whenever we click a sign up job, what we want to do is remove selected from all the other sign up jobs and add it to just the one that we clicked. And then we need to add, where's the dot selected? Sign up job dot selected. No, I am not pimp or baller. I cannot claim to be pimp or baller. I'm sorry. All right, so let's test to see if job selection works. And let's boop. All right. Oh, hold on. I forgot. We put in a little, not a cheaty, but our default for stat selection, there was a 3 in there. That needs to be 0. All right. Now we're good. Okay. And 10. I really don't need to be typing any of this, but why not? All right. Interesting. Hold on. It does. Unknown 20. What do you mean? I've never used that before. Let me take a quick look. Oh, something's broken. Okay, break can't be used in line 92. Okay, so I've been using break the wrong way. So let me quickly... So I don't want break, I want return, I guess. All right, 92 it was. Okay, so return. So JavaScript was failing because of that. So here, user sign up. So there was a discussion about in create user, some JSON encoding. Oh, let's. And unknown was asking, why don't we use JSON numeric check? So if I take a look, one of the I have an options, and mainly because my return, well, I'm not actually returning the user. The user's not getting returned at all. All I'm returning is errors. The user's being set to the session. So if you're talking about sending the values, okay. So what unknown 20 is saying that right now, if I were to add to return, so let's say I were to add return stat value 4, I would need to make sure I put JSON numeric check here. Otherwise, it wouldn't do a number. I've never had that issue in the past, but if we run into it, that's very useful. Thank you, Unknown. That is good to know. All right, so let's fix our JavaScript error issues. That's a little too big. Okay. All right, so our JavaScript issues where we were using we're using a break instead of a return. So let's see if that fixed things. Let's see. Firefox. Okay. Console. All right. No errors in console. So that's a step in the right direction. Okay. So email does, you know what? Fine. Character name. Create account. Okay. Perfect. Goobers. Continue. So we need 16, so I'll just do it all in one. Okay, perfect. Okay, continue. Hey! All right. And hey, it works. It works. All right, this did not display the way I wanted to. Why not? Sign up job name. Can you try this? Well, there's nothing really to try. You're welcome to download the code. And it's not really at working point yet. Sign up job name, text, weight, bold, text, style, italic. Okay. What have I done wrong? Font. It's not text, it's font. All right, so, good news, let's hear it. Okay, so I'm gonna bring back Firebug. So I needed to put font, weight, bold. It's apparently getting font, weight, or font style, italic. All right. So now if I get rid of the Firebug, this is what it looks like. This is not terrible. Yes, that is awesome, creative. It is good to both work out and to eat well. All right, so in theory, we have completed the agenda, and it's 11:30, which is ending time. So I would say this was a success for me. I will commit the code right now. So if I go here and git commit, commit and push. All right, so if anyone wants, they can go to code and you can take a look at all of the code that was put down today and all the code that was put down last time. That is all available. And if I drop this, so yeah, so you can now see all of that. And so yeah, so we got through almost all. Let's see, what didn't we get through? Let's make that a little smaller, easy to read. So we got through level 3, which is pick a class. We just need to finish. And then we need the tutorial, your first scenario. So that's a great place to start because that is the core of the game. So it gives me some time to think about it, and I would love your thoughts as well. So that is that. And thank you. If you have any questions, I will be putting these videos up on YouTube as well, so they will always be available in VOD format. I know that Twitch will only keep them for like 2 weeks. So these are all going to be up on YouTube, and they should be available. Otherwise, thank you so much. I will be streaming again Monday, but streaming a role-playing game and actually playing. Tuesday and Friday, again, next week will be standard continuing the process. So tomorrow or Tuesday will probably be more back end stuff. So we'll be finishing up the front end, or at least getting the front end working. And then so it'll be a lot more PHP, a lot more database type stuff. But thank you so much for coming. I hope you all had a wonderful time. I greatly appreciate it. And I will see you all soon. So, and actually, because we can, let's go raid Aaron Knight. So yeah, if you would like to want to join, Aaron Knight will be streaming. And she is a wonderful and amazing streamer. She does not do game dev, but she is a developer herself. So she's extremely bright and awesome and everything. All right. Thank you very much.